What's up, everybody? Austin here with Tactical Approach Outdoors. So here's the question that everybody wants to know: which is better, the tree stand, the saddle? So which is it? Well, I'm not one that usually follows trends of any kind, so I pick what's going to work for me, what I think is going to make me the most successful in the woods, no matter what everybody else seems to think in the industry. So I'm going to tell you what my pros and cons are for hunting both styles in this video, so stay tuned. So let's talk about the tree stand first. So one of the biggest pros that I have for the tree stand is comfort. I do a lot of all-day sits, which means that it can be very difficult to sit in the exact same position all day. Your body's not made to sit in the same position all day, and unfortunately that saddle really locks you into only a couple positions available. Okay, with this tree stand, not only can I move around in the seat, switch angles of how to put the pressure points on my body, but I can also stand up in it. So that's the biggest thing for me, is the comfort level. Some of the cons: it can be a little bit noisier in transport in and out of the woods. It can be a little bit noisier setting up. And some of the other things, it can be a little bit more difficult to set up. So you have to be more careful about angles on the trees. It can be a little less, you have less concealment because you stick out away from the tree a little bit more, so you look a little bit more like a tumor in the woods. So I mean, there's definitely some cons to it. It can be kind of a pain in the neck at times, right? Especially for those of us that do a lot of run and gun style hunting. We're moving from tree to tree a lot. We're always setting up and tearing down. It can take a little bit longer because you're trying to find the right angle and get it comfortable. And I tell you what, sitting at an angle in a tree stand all day, that's no fun at all. But overall comfort level, really that's the biggest thing in the woods. Also, is not only do we want to be able to hunt, but we've got to be comfortable doing it, because if we're not comfortable doing it, we're not going to be able to sit there all day through all the conditions that we need to be able to sit through in order to get that opportunity at that buck. So that's my thoughts on the tree stand. I love it, and I'm going to be using it more often than I did last year. I sat in a saddle all last year. I will be going back to my tree stand for a lot of my hunting, especially my all-day sits. So now let's get out of this tree stand and let's talk about the saddle. Alright, so now let's talk about the saddle. Everybody's been getting into the saddle. It's the thing right now. In the last couple years, there's been a lot of information come out about it, and I actually really like it. It's fantastic. Is it worth giving up my tree stand? I'm still on the fence about it. I'm not 100% for sure. So let's talk about some of the pros that I found. It is extremely quiet, easy to set up. There is nothing to it. You climb the tree with your steps, exact same process as your tree stand. You set your platform, same process. You put in one strap around the tree and getting it set. It's simpler to set than the tree stand. And then you're putting your tether around, just like you would your safety harness strap. But there's no metal parts. You don't have to fumble with angles. It is super simple to set up and quick. It is nothing to it. It's awesome. And also my available trees to choose from is way up there. I can pick some funny trees, angled trees, trees that I wouldn't be able to sit in a tree stand. I just wouldn't be able to get the tree stand in that tree. So the saddle was fantastic for that. I was able to choose some funky stuff this last year, and it worked out fantastic. Another thing that's great about it is it's very natural looking presentation. So it's a lot better concealment. So because I'm more upright position, very similar to a tree. I mean, it works. you look like a limb. You don't just look like a tumor sitting on the side of the tree. I can also move and position this tree between me and the deer, whatever works out, right? And a lot of times I'm positioning this tree somewhat from in between me and where I think the deer are going to be coming from. So it works out really well for those situations, and I loved it. One of the biggest issues I had with it was that it got extremely uncomfortable after about a 4-hour sit. I do a lot of all-day sits. I don't bounce a lot. I find myself a tree during the rut. I find myself a tree that's got active movement, and I stick to it. And I don't do a couple-hour sits. I do all-day sits. So this got very uncomfortable after 4 hours. And really, the saddle itself was not the issue. I love the saddle. I'm hunting out of an H2 saddle myself, but the issues I had was in my knees and in my feet. You got pressure points, you got funky angles, and it just beat me up. Mostly it was in my knees. It just, the funky angles, and when I tried to lean up against my tree, I used knee pads, which worked fantastic for me. That they wanted to slide off the tree, and it was just kind of a pain to get comfortable in it for a longer sit. So that's my biggest complaint about it. There's also a much larger learning curve than the Treestand. The Treestand is very straightforward. The saddle is a much larger learning curve, especially when it comes to your shooting. Setting up's easy. Getting used to this thing is easy. I felt very comfortable up at heights. I can be a little uncomfortable at heights, and in the saddle I felt extremely comfortable. That wasn't the issue. The issue was actually learning how to shoot from it. So when you're strong side like this, that got very simple, right? But once you started looking at this shot over here, that could get more difficult, and it took a lot of practice, and things happen very fast, especially on public land. And you're hunting in tight situations and a lot of brush, so if you don't have it nailed and you got the muscle memory down, that's going to be difficult, because you just have to be able to make that transition over with your bow and be ready for that shot. Okay, so overall I love it, and I'm going to continue using it a lot this year. Now, am I going to completely give my Treestand up for the saddle? I don't plan on doing that, at least not this year. Maybe give it another year here and see what I think at the end of the year. So I'll be keeping you guys updated on my thoughts about it. But I plan on using this more for situations that I don't plan on staying in one position. So if I'm going into a new spot, I'm unsure about it. I'm doing kind of a run and gun situation where maybe I'm going to hunt for a few hours here, but I want to move to a different spot in the evening. So I'm going to be using it quite a bit for that. And on the trees that I plan on hunting all day, especially during the rut, I'm just going to bring my Treestand in. I'm going to get comfortable and enjoy the all-day sit. That all-day sit can wear on you, and if you are not comfortable in the tree, it's going to make the hunt very unenjoyable, and that's the last thing we want to do. I mean, the conditions can be uncomfortable enough. Last thing you need is to be uncomfortable in the tree, and that we just try to minimize that. We got to be ready for that situation. We got to be in the woods, ready to go, and if we don't want to be in that tree for a long period of time, that's a problem. So I plan on using both, and I will keep you guys updated. That's what I think about the pros and cons when it comes to a saddle and a Treestand, and what my plan is for this upcoming season, how to use both of them. So I hope you liked the video. Please hit the like and subscribe button to keep up with all the rest of our content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.